Chapter 333 The Deathbringer of Donjing Lake. Strange, there are some scattered corpses here, said Hong Nio, who was relatively observant. It's normal, since the giant lizards always fight one another for territories or partners. Come, we're one step closer to our treasure. Ha ha ha. We'll all be rich once we get our hands on the flowing mud. Huang Josie, who was rather insensitive, burst into laughter. Everyone's expression turned weird when they heard his shout. They subconsciously glanced at the woman called Li Man. Idiot, you've exposed the earth element's soul seed that we are looking for, the captain, Liang Dequi, glared at Huang Josie. The flowing mud is a high-quality earth element soul seed. The estimated market price is around 30 million RMB. I swear I'll skin you alive if you screw this up. Huang Josie let out an awkward smile. He cast a glance at Li Man and realized that she was only glancing at them indifferently. It seemed like she was not too interested in a spirit-grade soul seed like the flowing mud. As they arrived at the valley, they immediately saw its astonishing brilliance. The golden sunlight of the setting sun had laid a golden rug across the giant lizards, which were wriggling as they moved. Not only was half of the basin filled with them, even the slope of the mountain was crowded with the giant lizards. From afar, it looked like the entire place was covered in gold. Holy crap, how many giant lizards are there? Exclaimed Hong Nio when he witnessed the spectacular sight. Instead of admiring the view, he could feel his scalp going numb. If they somehow ended up being surrounded in the valley, they would be like sheep entering a pack of wolves, with no chance of surviving. Captain, are you sure we're going in? Huang Josie felt like retreating when he saw these many giant lizards. The treasure was important, but everything would be in vain if he lost his life here. We've already come this far. Don't worry. Hong Niao's plan will surely work, said Liang Dequi with a deep breath, although he looked quite nervous, too. Luckily, the valley was fairly spacious, thus there were quite a few hiding spots for them. Otherwise, even a few extra lives would not be enough for them to barge into the Demon Beast's valley. Li Man split up with the hunter group when they arrived at the valley. She was quite interested, too, but it would not make sense if a commander were to take advantage of them after they had invested great effort in collecting the information, coming up with a plan, and risking their lives to acquire the earth element soul seed. Li Man followed the trails of the corpses. The hunter group agreed to split up, knowing that she was looking for something else. They were more interested in the treasure, since what kind of woman would they not be able to find when they had the money? However, soon after the group entered the valley, a nimble figure followed along their trail. He glanced at the group of hunters and the female magician who had split up, and quickly inspected the corpses on the ground. In the end, he chose to go after the female magician. The person was none other than Zhang Xiaohou, who had left the army to infiltrate Donjing Lake on his own. As a matter of fact, he had followed Wang Dahui's group all the way from Bi City. The experienced hunters had never noticed his existence along the journey. Zhang Xiaohou was mainly in charge of tracking and spying in the army. He was considered a special forces soldier among the battle mages, although it was closely related to the two elements he had. Brother Fan, I'm very close to finding you. Zhang Xiaohou felt even more confident when he saw the causes of death of the corpses nearby. Li Man continued her search, following the corpses. She believed that she was very close to finding the Deathbringer of Donjing Lake. The term had appeared in the Hunter Union when a large number of giant lizards were found dead close to Donjing Lake. When the hunters discovered the giant lizards all had similar wounds, they referred to their killer as the Deathbringer of Donjing Lake. Li Man was the representative from the military sent to investigate the matter. Donjing Lake had been a sensitive and dangerous area for quite some time, so she was not willing to overlook any tiny detail, just in case it turned out to be a new commander-level demon beast, or something even more dangerous. It would become a great threat to Bi City. Strange, my legs feel heavy. I don't think my stamina should be this bad, even though it's been a while since I was last out on the field. Li Man had no choice but to find a dry spot to rest up after walking past a swampy area. She quickly took off her boots to check her legs. Damn it, why was I so careless? Li Man finally discovered the reason. Her feet were somehow poisoned by the swamp. Her jade-white feet were dyed purple. Li Man was reallocated to Donjing Lake quite recently, thus she was not very familiar with the environment. As such, she did not put too much attention on her precautions toward poisonous substances. This doesn't make sense. I'm already following the advice given by my comrades. Besides, with my cultivation, there's no way I would be poisoned so easily. Could this be an unknown poison? Where did it come from, such a strong poison? Li Man anxiously sat down on the rock. She immediately applied all the antidotes she had brought with her, but she was surprised when none of them was effective against the poison, which continued to spread up her legs. The swamp was a mix between water and earth elements, thus she tried using the respective antidotes, but none of them worked. This is bad. Li Man was not afraid of demon beasts. She would not mind killing any of them that she stumbled into. However, poison was definitely troublesome to deal with. She was clueless about it, and she was not well prepared for this adventure. She had no idea what to do in her current situation. The hunters must have gone far away. Should I fire a signal to ask for help? The army would send someone over. But if they knew I failed to accomplish the mission just because I've been poisoned, everyone would laugh at me. Those old jerks never liked me intervening with their business at BE headquarters to begin with. Li Man clenched her teeth and gave up on the thought. She tried other ways to cleanse the poison, but its strength totally surpassed her expectations. When the purple poison made its way to Li Man's knees, she finally regretted her idiotic decision. The poison was definitely nothing ordinary. As the sky fell darker, Li Man began to feel dizzy. It would be rather difficult for her to send a signal now. She would need to make some preparations before firing the signal. Otherwise, a normal signal would just expose her location to the demon beasts. Li Man leaned against the cold rock and panted heavily. The poison continued to spread in her body. Li Man could no longer move. She could hear distant cries of the giant lizards around her as her eyelids fell heavily. She had no idea if her spot was concealed enough. All she could do was to pray that the giant lizards would not notice her, otherwise. Just as Li Man was falling unconscious, she felt a strong electric current passing in front of her. It struck a giant lizard crawling toward her, and instantly killed it. Li Man's heart skipped a beat. How bad exactly was her luck? Not only was she immobilized because of some strong poison, the Deathbringer of Donjing Lake just had to show itself now, too. Most of the giant lizards had died after being punctured by lightning. Li Man was confident that the figure coming closer to her was the one she had been searching for. Chapter 334 The Wolf-like Youth. In a shabby cave, a man in ragged clothes sat like a caveman beside a vigorous bonfire. On the other side lay a woman with a shocking bust, whose chest was pulsing steadily. The woman's army green pants had been taken off, revealing her pink underwear. The rather small piece of cloth was unable to completely conceal her plump booty, which was completely exposed and looked even more alluring under the illumination of the fire. Cave, bonfire, a man, and a woman. Such a setup could easily provoke anyone's wild imagination. Why would a woman even come to this place? The man murmured. The woman let out a soft moan. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the cave became drier, as the sound of someone swallowing a mouthful of saliva was heard. Crap, I forgot to put her pants back on. As soon as the thought crossed the man's mind, Li Man regained consciousness. She checked her surroundings with a blank face after her eyes sprang open, and discovered a man with long hair, like a caveman, staring at her. She immediately gathered her focus and began casting magic subconsciously. You are poisoned. The caveman smiled, exposing his teeth. His canine teeth were quite sharp, like two swords hanging in the air. You're a hunter? Li Man asked in a calm tone as she collected her thoughts. The reason she had stuttered for a moment was because the man looked too similar to a caveman. Even a hunter who was in extremely bad condition would still look better than him. She could not tell how long he had been staying in the wild. More or less, at least I won't be able to leave this place in a short period of time, said the man with a smile. Did you save my life? Asked Li Man. Yeah, the poison you caught is quite tricky, said the man. It took me a great effort to cleanse it when I caught it myself. However, your body is a lot stronger than I thought. I assumed that you would be unconscious for at least 7 or 8 days. Thanks, I'm not this careless usually, explained Li Man. Why would a woman like you come to such a dangerous place on your own? Asked the man. Aren't you on your own, too? Li Man returned the question. Her eyes were filled with the pride of an independent woman. You're right. So you're here for the treasure in the valley? Added the man. His eyes peeked at her at times. Li Man shook her head. She recalled the lightning she saw prior to falling unconscious, before taking a closer look at the man in front of her. I'm here to investigate the thing that has been killing lots of demon beasts recently. Oh, I see. The man shifted his gaze as he switched the topic. As long as you're not here for the treasure. Too many have died because of it. Too many have died? Li Man was startled. Yeah, where do you think the poison comes from? I've tried to warn a few groups, but they totally ignored my advice, the man said. This valley isn't normal. Li Man frowned. She recalled how she was poisoned and the uneasy feeling she had when the group first arrived at the valley. She was an advanced magician and she still came so close at losing her life, let alone the hunter groups. Crap, Dahui's group was still clueless about the danger. Hopefully, they were not poisoned as she was. Otherwise, the whole group would be dead by now. It will take some time until your poison is cleansed. You should hide in the cave for the time being, the man said. Why are you here? Li Man asked. To collect some stuff. The man smiled mysteriously. Have you had enough? Li Man's expression turned dark as she glared at him. I'll excuse myself. Please put your pants on. I've already dried them for you. The man awkwardly left the cave. Li Man had totally run out of patience. During the conversation, she already gave him hints to leave the cave. To her surprise, he sat there throughout the whole conversation. If it weren't for the fact that he had saved her life, she would never forgive him for taking her pants off. When the man returned, Li Man had already put on her pants. Her eyes were staring at the bonfire as she tried to figure out if the man had done something to her. She briefly checked her body. Her sensitive parts seemed perfectly fine. Her hymen was already broken. As a female battle mage, she had already given her virginity to the intense training in the army. It had nothing to do with a man. Can I ask you a favor? Li Man glanced at the man who was walking towards her. Li Man could not help but murmur in her heart, exactly how long has he been living here? His hair almost reached the ground. His canine teeth were like a wolf's fangs. If it weren't for his seemingly ordinary human face, she would have thought that he was actually raised by a wolf, like in the film A Werewolf Boy. I don't have much time, the man rejected her straight away. I haven't told you what it is yet, said Li Man, protesting in an angry tone. Sis, I don't have any time to spare. My life is still at stake here, the man said. Whatever you are doing, I can help you, but I hope you can send a message to the hunter group that has just arrived here, Li Man said. Tell them not to go any deeper. Their lives are at risk. Li Man had a fairly good impression of the group. Even though they were quite lecherous, she had gotten used to people staring at her like that. I should have just set up a notice board there, the man complained. The thing in the swamp at the center of the valley has already been injured. However, several groups of magicians have been so keen to give the thing a warm hug lately. I can't stop them. Li Man fell into deep thought. It was likely that there had been news spreading around about the earth element's soul seed. As a result, many magicians had come to search for it. To their surprise, the valley was nothing but a trap, taking countless lives. On top of that, it was impossible for the people to learn the truth, as most of the groups were completely wiped out after coming here. As a result, more people would just come here and end up dead. If even an advanced magician like her had failed to protect herself properly, any other group would surely be killed. How do you know the thing is injured? Li Man was slightly suspicious of the man. Most of the people would have died halfway into the valley, and yet this guy seemed to be perfectly fine living here. Besides, she did sense that the Deathbringer of Donjing Lake had appeared before she fell unconscious. How did she end up being saved by this man? Was she under an illusion? That's none of your concern, said the man. I still don't know your name. Oh, you can call me Fan Mo. You seem rather familiar with this place. I don't want to see more people dying, and they are all intermediate magicians, Li Man said, staring at the extraordinary young man with a stern look. Let me help eliminate the thing in the valley, too. The military had the obligation to get rid of any potential threat. Since Li Man was a commander, it was a responsibility which she could not avoid. Mo Fan was stunned. He began to inspect the woman whose tone was slightly dignified. I do have a plan to kill it, but I don't think it's plausible with the two of us. We still need someone nimble enough to lure the poisonous beasts away, said Mo Fan. There was a guy tailing us when we were entering the valley, Li Man said. I'm sure that he was using the military's way of tracking enemies and concealing his presence. I'll find him. It won't be good enough, either. We need someone strong enough, who could kite a commander-level demon beast. Forget it. Let's give it a try. You should find the guy first. Just making it clear, don't try to take the thing I need. Otherwise, you all will be dead soon, said Mo Fan. I'm not interested in it, Li Man said in a rather calm tone. Chapter 335 The Giant Beast in the Swamp. Sigh. Such a pity for her to leave like that. Captain, why didn't you say anything? I don't think it would hurt to let her stay. Huang Zhouzi's mind was still filled with the woman's deep cleavage. He just could not understand how her skinny waist was able to support her incredible bust. Guess she trained herself a lot in the wild. Can your brain be useful for once? Aren't you aware that something isn't right here? Hong Nio snapped furiously. Something isn't right? There isn't a single giant lizard here. Isn't that good news? Said Hong Zhouzi. Fuck me, is your brain full of shit? Hong Nio was absolutely furious. The density of giant lizards in this place is estimated to 1 every 10 square meters. However, we've not seen a single one along the way. What does that imply? It means there's something so terrifying here, that all the servant-class giant lizards are too scared to get close. Why did he decide to join a bunch of brain-dead teammates? The group finally realized that something was indeed out of place here. They quickly scanned the darkness around them. The center of the valley was an uplifted area. If the swampy area, which took up 70% of the valley, was considered a lake, the uplifted area could be described as an island in the middle of the lake. They had stuck to their plan and come all the way here without stumbling into any danger. They were so close to reaching the area. The information they received had mentioned that an earth element soul seed, flowing mud, was right in the middle of the valley. There was indeed a strong earth element presence nearby. There must be a soul seed being nurtured in the middle of the swamp. They had put so much effort in just to acquire the soul seed. As such, any potential danger was treated as if everything would be fine as long as they were careful enough. They couldn't help it, as the soul seed was too huge of an incentive to them. We're here. What should we do now? Asked Captain Liang Dequi. I'll investigate our surroundings first, said Hong Nio. The group of hunters had reached the land in the middle of the swamp. Their surroundings were still clear of giant lizards. Maybe they had gone somewhere else to take a nap. Hong Nio took out an aluminum container. He explained to the group while setting up the special tool. This is an element detector. By inserting it into the ground, we'll be able to distinguish the ratio of elements within a kilometer. This land is soaked in the swamp, thus it should be showing a balanced ratio of brown, which represents the earth element, and blue, which represents the water element. If the result leans towards dark brown, it implies that the area is strong in the earth element, therefore the soul seed should be within a kilometer of the device. Alright, we're magicians, not scientists. We don't need to know the details, said Huang Zhouzi impatiently. Hong Nio wore a disdainful look. Who told you that magicians don't need to use their brains? Who said that magicians don't need to learn how to use different tools? This is strange. The result was out fairly quickly. Hong Nio blurted out, staring at the blank screen on the element detector. What is it? Asked Captain Wang Dequi. The rest of the team came closer, too, eager to know if there was any treasure nearby. Why doesn't it show any color? Didn't you say it's supposed to be brown and blue? Huang Zhouzi went up to the device and stared at the empty screen. Hong Nio was confused, too. He quickly checked the device. Why isn't there any color? It is just ordinary land. The device should at least show brown, but why is it showing nothing? Didn't that mean the land is not showing any elemental reaction? This doesn't make sense scientifically. No, magically. Is this thing broken? Huang Zhouzi laughed. He was never fond of devices like that. Impossible. Let me try again, said Hong Nio. If it was land, it should have earth elements reaction. Either the device is broken, or this ground. By the way, do any of you feel that we're rising? Someone blurted out among the group. Hong Nio, who was about to use the device again, suddenly had a pale face. The hands holding the device began to tremble violently. The device was not broken, but it still failed to detect any reaction. Everything in the world was basically made of some elements, but the only thing that would not show a reaction would be a living thing. A roar so powerful that it could shake the entire valley erupted suddenly. The sound was extremely close to the group. It felt like it was occurring right beside their ears. Their eardrums were almost destroyed, while they felt like their brains were about to explode. The first one to realize the truth was Hong Nio, whose mind was instantly overwhelmed with fear. He could not even move his body. Following the roar, the land in the middle of the swamp rose rapidly. It escaped the swamp and rose into the air. The giant body previously concealed under the swamp was exposed. It was huge enough to stir a great tide in the middle of the swamp. The land began to tilt sideways as the giant black beast stood up. As it stood up, the island turned out to be its backbone. The earth and mud rapidly came loose from its giant body. Its massive stood under the dim night sky. As the moonlight shone upon the enormous silhouette, the part which was exposed above the mud resulted in an epic scene. The tiny humans on the giant beast's back were utterly terrified. They never thought they were actually stepping on the back of a giant beast. They completely lost their minds. Some who were quicker in response immediately cast spells to aid their escape. However, the beast was long aware of these intruders' presence. With just a slight shudder, it shook the humans off its back with ease. Its movement was not too quick, but its size was enormous. A single step from it was able to cover the distance of a wind magician's wind path. Liang Dequi, Hong Nio, Huang Josie and the rest never thought they would be stepping into the jaws of death themselves. Even magic could not save them as they fell through the air. Everything had happened too quickly. The place fell silent fairly quickly. The group of elite magicians had only seen the giant beast's backbone, before they were devoured by darkness without a hint of struggle. For a few seconds, there were screams and shouts, but now, the giant black beast was slowly sinking into the swamp again. The entire place returned to calm, as if nothing had actually happened. Chapter 336 Holy Shit, Xiaohou. Somewhere in the distance, on top of an old tree growing away from the rest of the plants, a fairly skinny young man was sitting on a branch. His eyes were wide, as he could not believe what he had just witnessed in the center of the swamp. His teeth started grinding subconsciously. It took him quite some time before he could collect his thoughts. He even stared at the ground below him, which was overgrown with weeds. After taking a close look, Zhang Xiaohou was confident that it would not rise all of a sudden. Half of his shirt was soaked with cold sweat. What the hell is wrong with this place? Zhang Xiaohou was utterly terrified. He was planning to track the corpses, but considering that he would not be able to move freely in the valley, he decided to tailgate the group of hunters while maintaining a certain distance from them. To his surprise, the whole group was wiped out within a few blinks of an eye. The hunters, consisting of intermediate magicians, were considered an elite group, but had just been wiped out so easily. Not knowing if he should feel lucky or pessimistic, Zhang Xiaohou somehow lost track of his direction. The valley was scarier than he had imagined. The enormous creature at the center of the swamp had definitely surpassed the warrior level. Should he leave the valley at once, or, damn it, how could he leave before finding the person he was looking for? He would just avoid going to the center of the swamp at all costs. The giant beast would most likely stay in its area due to its incredible size. Clenching his teeth, Zhang Xiaohou immediately left the area. The further he was away from the swamp, the better. Fuck me. Are you being serious now? The giant lizards are returning to their lair at this time? As Zhang Xiaohou was about to leave, he saw the giant lizards, which were supposed to be gathering to the west of the mountain, were instead making their way toward him. The group of beasts seemed to be taking a stroll after enjoying a satisfying bath, and were on their way back to their nest to call it a day. It was definitely bad news for Zhang Xiaohou, as he just happened to be close to their nest. As a matter of fact, the valley would normally be empty for 2 to 3 hours, as the giant lizards would gather on the west of the mountain. They would show up on time like housewives turning up to dances being held at the public squares, living their quality lives. The hunter group had planned to finish their job within this gap of 2 to 3 hours. Regardless of if they succeeded or not, they would leave instantly once time ran out, and would resume the operation the next day. Unfortunately, none of them expected there to be an enormous beast hiding at the center of the swamp. Zhang Xiaohou was out of luck to bump into the housewives, the giant lizards when they were returning to their nest. He was clueless about the giant lizards' regular routine. He assumed they would stay on the west side of the mountain until daylight. Seeing more giant lizards crawling toward him, Zhang Xiaohou felt his scalp turning numb. He immediately used all his capabilities to flee for his life. The swamp to the south of the valley was poisonous. Not only was the poison able to spread rapidly, its gaseous substance could also permeate through a living thing's skin. The creatures residing in the swamp were totally immune to the poison, while outsiders trespassing in this area would most likely end up like the countless corpses at the bottom of the swamp. You're still not cleansed from the poison. Why are you following me? Mo Fan was left speechless, glancing at the stubborn woman. I'm fine, But are you sure that disgusting fruit is enough to resist the poison? Asked Li Man. Of course, otherwise, I would be dead by now, answered Mo Fan. We should find the group of hunters as soon as possible, then try to find the wind magician, said Li Man. If they executed their plan tonight, they are most likely dead by now. As for the guy you mentioned who was hiding in the dark, to find him in such a huge valley. Mo Fan lowered his body to cross the wall sticking out above him. He paused his sentence as soon as he made it to the other side. Li Man followed behind and lowered her body to pass through the gap below the wall. She took over Mo Fan's sentence. He should be nearby. Error. Mo Fan was staring blankly ahead at the swampy area. He saw a large group of giant lizards chasing after a skinny young man who was sprinting in front of the beasts. The young man seemed to be unaware of the gap under the mountain wall. He had stumbled into a dead end. His eyes flickered with firm determination. You assholes, your grandpa who is definitely going to beat the shit out of you. Knowing there was nowhere left to run, Zhang Xiaohou took a deep breath and prepared himself to have a lengthy battle with the giant lizards until daylight. There were at least 70 giant lizards chasing after him. They were significantly larger than the usual servant-class demon beasts. Their only weakness was their slow movement speed. They were trying their best to catch up, despite only being 100 meters away. Their grinding teeth could not wait to tear the seafood apart. Well, the swamp was their habitat, so humans who lived on the shore were considered their seafood. Is he the person you were talking about? Mo Fan tried to take a closer look at the person, but all he could see was a shadowy figure. Li Man nodded after also taking a glance. Most likely, Li Man was lost in her thoughts. She assumed that they would need some time trying to find the person. To their surprise, they had somehow bumped into him as soon as they got closer to the valley. It was just too coincidental. Hey, I wouldn't want to have a rumble with them. There's a path here, come quick. Mo Fan waved at the idiotic young man from the gap below the mountain walls. Zhang Xiaohou turned around and saw a wild-looking man and the mysterious woman who was with the group of hunters before. Oh, coming! Zhang Xiaohou crawled his way toward the gap below the wall. The giant lizards were unable to make it through the gap, so they had given up on the chase. The trio continued to move in the pitch-black darkness. Zhang Xiaohou was the first to break the silence. Thanks for saving my life. Don't worry about it, we do have something to discuss with you, too. By the way, friend, your voice sounds familiar. Mo Fan responded in the dark. Strange, your voice sounds familiar to me, too. The two had just walked out from the dark as they spoke. Four eyes stared into one another as the moonlight shone upon their face. A soft breeze caressed their faces. A crow somewhere in the mountain let out a weird caw. Holy shit, Xiao Hu? Brother Fan,